Imagine you've spent 10 years in a community. You know the language, not just the words, you know the registers. You know who to call when a project stalls and why it stalled and what that history means. You know things no dataset could ever hold. And then your organization tells you, we found a tool that can do what you do faster, cheaper, and at scale. This isn't hypothetical. This conversation is happening right now inside NGOs, UN agencies, bilateral donors, and small local partners who never asked to be part of it. And the question people are asking quietly but not saying out loud is, what happens to us? Here's the story most people in international development are telling themselves right now. AI is a tool, a powerful one, sure, but a tool. It handles the tedious stuff, the data entry, the situation reports, the translation, the monitoring dashboards, and that frees us to do the work that actually matters, the relationships, the community engagement, the judgment calls that no algorithm can replicate. The sector gets smarter, our jobs stay safe, because development at its core is human work. It's a comforting story and there's real truth in it, but there are a few things this story quietly leaves out, and those omissions aren't small. They tend to fall on specific people, the same people who've always been asked to absorb the cost of other people's decisions. So let's look at what the evidence actually shows. 3 things worth sitting with. First, the macro picture. The World Economic Forum's Future of Jobs report of 2025 projects 170 million new jobs over the next 5 years. But 92 million roles will be displaced. Net positive, yes, but the disruption is real and it's uneven. And here's the number that matters for this sector. 40% of employers expect to reduce their workforce where AI can automate tasks. That includes organizations in the social sector. That includes us. Second, what's already happening inside the sector. AI has moved past the pilot phase. WFP uses AI-driven hunger monitoring across 90 countries. UNHCR uses predictive analytics to forecast displacement. UNDP has launched a full AI acceleration initiative. This isn't the future of international development, it's the present, it's happening right now. Large organizations are embedding these tools into the decisions that determine where resources go, which communities get prioritized, and how crises are anticipated before they escalate. Third, and this is where it gets a little bit uncomfortable, the AI divide. While countries in the global north are designing, developing, and deploying AI to drive economic growth, large portions of the global south are being drawn into the AI value chain as low-wage labor, tagging data, moderating content, correcting model outputs. In Kenya, for example, workers were paid as little as $1.50 an hour to review traumatic content so AI systems could learn from it. That's not development, that's extraction wearing a different uniform. Now, here's the tension I want to name directly because I think we're dancing around it. We say AI will free development workers up for the human work, but look more closely at which workers are most exposed and the framing starts to fall apart. The jobs most at risk in international development are not at headquarters in Geneva or Washington. They're the entry-level roles, the data coordinators, the local program officers, the community liaisons who are often hired on short-term contracts doing exactly the kind of structured cognitive work that AI is being trained to absorb. And of course, this could happen up to similar roles in headquarters. But from a big perspective, these are the groups that are most affected. Earlier waves of automation hit routine physical tasks, then routine cognitive ones. Now AI is moving into a complex, non-routine cognitive work like financial analysis, risk assessment, translation, program design support. The safe harbor of strategy, creativity, and social skills is real, but who gets to stand in that harbor? And there is one more layer. AI tools built in the global north may not map onto the realities of communities in the global south. They're trained on different data, built for different contexts, shaped by different assumptions, and yet they're the systems being deployed, often without meaningful input from the communities they're supposed to serve. Now here's how I read this. The AI as tool, not threat framing, protects a certain kind of development professional, typically someone with a graduate degree working in a headquarters or international role, with the social capital to pivot to AI-adjacent work when things shift. It does very little to protect the local program staff, the translators, the data enumerators, the community health workers whose knowledge is the glue on entire operations, but whose labor is very easy to automate or outsource. And there's something deeper at stake here. The international development sector has spent years interrogating its own power dynamics. Who sets the agenda? Whose knowledge counts? Who benefits? We've called it localization, we've called it decolonization, shifting the power. But if we adopt AI at scale without asking who built these systems, whose data trained them, and whose job disappear when they are deployed, we risk encoding a new layer of inequality on top of the old one. If the skill of building AI is concentrated among Western educated engineers and the capital is concentrated in a few venture-backed firms, then their assumptions are shaping which problems AI will be used to solve and which ones won't register at all. That's not shifting the power, that's the opposite. Now here's the reframe I want to propose. The question is not, will AI replace jobs in international development? The real question is, whose jobs, whose knowledge, and whose futures are being shaped by decisions that most affected communities have no voice in? Technological change in the sector has never been neutral. It reflects the power relations already present. What's different now is the speed and the legitimacy AI carries with it. When a model produces an output, it feels like objectivity. But it isn't. It's a set of choices made by people with power embedded in code. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has said that the fate of humanity must never be left to the black box of an algorithm, that people must always retain oversight of AI decision-making to ensure human rights are upheld. In development work, that principle has to go even further. Oversight is not enough. The question really is, who is in the room when these systems are designed? So what does this mean in practice? If you're working in the sector at any level, here are 3 things to think about. 1, get very specific about tasks, not just jobs. The honest accounting isn't my job is safe. It's which parts of my work are at risk and what does that mean for how I invest in myself. The ILO has been very clear that while a large number of jobs will be transformed by AI, this doesn't necessarily mean net losses, but the way work gets done will definitely change significantly, and workers need to be adaptable in ways that go well beyond adding AI to a CV, for example. Number 2, push your organization on localization and AI in the same conversation. If your organization says it's committed to shifting power to local partners, ask what that means when procurement decisions about AI tools are made centrally by headquarters without local input. Local partners need a seat at the table, not as end users, as co-designers. 3, be very critical consumers of the AI for good narrative. Not because AI can do good, it can and it does, but because the sector has a long pattern of adopting innovations that serve organizational efficiency more than the community benefit. The same scrutiny that we apply to any intervention, does this actually work for the people it's supposed to serve, and how would we know if it doesn't, applies here too. And here's the question I want to leave you with. In your organization, who is most at risk of being displaced by AI adoption? And have they been part of the conversation about how it's being introduced? Not as a box to check, as a genuine question of justice. Now let's bring it all together. AI is already reshaping how international development organizations operate. The data on displacement is real. The integration of AI into humanitarian logistics, program targeting, and crisis response is already well underway. And the risks are not evenly distributed. They fall hardest on workers with less power, less protection, and the least say in how these systems get built. The optimistic story that AI frees us for the truly human work may hold true for some of us, but social science is asking us to look at the pattern, not the exception. And the pattern here is one we've seen before. Technological change accelerates inequality when it isn't governed with equity at the center. But here's what gives me some hope. The international development sector already knows how to ask these questions. It has the frameworks. What it needs is the will to apply them to itself, not just to the communities it works with. And that's really what this comes down to, learning. Not just collecting data or generating insights, but building the organizational habits to actually use what we know in ways that are thoughtful, inclusive, and grounded in the realities we're trying to change. That's exactly what the free Learning Loop Guide is designed to help you with. It's a practical resource for thinking more intentionally about how learning happens within teams, within organizations, and across systems. Because in the sector that's being reshaped this fast, that capacity is not a nice to have, it's the work. You can download it using the link in the description. If this raised something for you, I'd also love to hear it. How is AI showing up in your work? And who's not in the room when those conversations are happening? Drop it in the comments. That exchange is part of how we think better together. Thanks for watching. This is Beyond Social Science, where we focus on practical learning for global change makers. If you learned something new today, I'll see you in the next video.